All right, so let me say hello and welcome to each and every one of you. Doug here with the LincolnList.com. Let me welcome you to another weekly edition of Stock Market Mutterings. This is where I will do my best to take a grope in the murkiness, try to make some sense out of the stock market for you, and I hope that whatever we talk about puts some money in your pocket. This will be for the week that begins on the 12th of October. As always, if you guys need help with your personal trading, you know where to find me. Go to LincolnList.com, click on the Trade Room tab, trade with me daily. I will do my best to help you. Before I get started, let me have a moment. Allow me to have the floor for just a second so I can toss some shade out there. Now, this is not for the people that are my regular supporters, my friends, the people in the trade room. You guys know who you are, my loyal ones. I'm talking about you other people out there, okay? And you'll know who you are when I start talking. I have a list right here in my hand. Just the other day, I tried something new. I was talking about my best stocks for the entire month. So I started my best stocks to trade in the month of October. You know what? I only got a couple of hundred views on this video, but that's not the point. Let me tell you guys what was on this list. Docu, $221 recommendation, $225 closed the week. Rocket, $21.72 on the mention, $22.70. Peloton, $113, now $123. Roku, $208, now $228. $20. And here, FSLY. FSLY, 102 to 126. Guys, there are two stocks, two on this list that went for more than $20 a share. $20 a share. Every single one of these here are winners. If you would have invested, I'm going to run this math off on top of my head. If you would have invested just 10 shares, like everybody keeps talking about this penny stocks, well, these stocks are too expensive, too rich for my blood or whatever. Let me get on that in just a second. 10 shares. I mean, just 10 shares. You would have made, $800 on 10 share position. $800. Did you make $800 a week last week trading? $800 on 10 shares. Okay, that's number one. Number two, it doesn't matter whether it's a big board, it's a tiny board, it's a no board, it's a penny, it's a pink sheet. A strategy, guys, a strategy and a process is a strategy and process. It works regardless of the instrument. It works in foreign currency, works in options, probably works in cryptocurrencies. I've never traded those. It works. If the system works, it works. So what are you guys watching? You watching like Tide Pod challenges? Is that what you do? Despacito? What video? What is it you actually spend? Where do you spend your trading education? Are you looking at the Lambos, the watches? The stripper poles? What's wrong with you people? What do you want from me, man? What do you want? Anyway, enough of my bitching, huh? Damn, what a freaking list. Why don't you go watch the video? No, I watched the video. I'm not making it up. So let me try to do it again. How about I talk about stock market mutterings and what's good this week or some other stuff? Because some of these things just kind of took off, I mean, it was a hell of a week there. So we'll start with the market, and we actually broke this range. It didn't look like in the beginning of the week that was going to be something that happened. Let me open up this chart here on the bottom. We just kind of back and forth. We had that little fake out day right there on Tuesday. And I shouldn't say it's a fake out day because it was the whole Trump, I ain't giving you guys no stimulus till after the election. And the market's like, oh, that's so horrible. Because, it's really important to the economy that for people to get this money. Like it's going to hurt the people that are investing. It's a joke. These corporations are getting billions and trillions when they screw up and they get bailed out. And then every of the smaller people in the country who are working the 9 to 5, who are doing the most of the contributing, who are paying the majority of the taxes and all that stuff, you're getting $1,200 freaking dollars, and then you're held under the ransom of some political whatever. Let's not talk about that. Okay, let's talk about something else. But anyway. Obviously, he retracts his statements. Why? Because the market was going down. Can't let that happen. Not prior to the election, you can't. And then you get a couple of really nice days. You get a nice little breakout. So kind of where we see here, I mean, the chart would lean towards saying, hey, look, 358's getting back to the correction highs, 358.75. I mean, that's on the table. That's definitely something that can happen here. I don't know right now until the beginning parts of Monday how the market wants to throw this out, whether this is just something going that gets retraced early in the week and then tries to remount, or there's a little bit of FOMO coming in over the weekend and they want to just buy into this in the thoughts that, you know, it's going back to all-time highs. That's kind of what we talked about there. It's normally. Now, I thought it would take a little bit longer, to be honest with you. I know I make some great calls, but I'm also wrong on many occasions. And this is kind of somewhere I'm wrong in my thinking, but I'm right on my money. And that's what's the great thing about being a trader. You don't have to be right in your theory all the time. Just don't be wrong financially. And some people might not understand what that means. And what it means is that you understand when you're wrong and you made a wrong call and you correct it immediately. You either get out of the bad trade, you change your bias quickly and say, okay, look, I misread that. I'm not going to sit here and tell me I don't have to be right. What's more ignorant is me trying to force an opinion and a bias that is no longer valid. So if I was thinking bearish and I'm thinking we were correcting and we start breaking out again, it's like, well, okay, it didn't happen. We are going back to all-time highs. I didn't see that until after the election. Maybe that is something that happened, change my bias, go to plan B, and that's it. That might be something that has to be there. I'm going to have to see how Monday works out, but all of these things running, especially the Qs, they went right back into these Q names, and they picked the stuff we were talking about, like FSLY. They kind of put the Apples and the Facebooks and the Teslas on hold this week. Like, they didn't get the big action, the big breakout moves. It was stuff like this. It was stuff like TTD. Look at this chart on TTD and PACY. I mean, these things, they're just abnormal looking. That's where the attention went. So I don't think those names necessarily have enough for next week. You know, like same thing with Peloton. That was also on the list, by the way, Peloton. I've been in this thing since 27. I'm dumbfounded now at this point of how far it keeps going. So I don't know if there's anything left in these. We have to kind of search around the board and look for some new names. On that note, let me talk about those new names. I did put on that list Docu. I still like Docu, and I'll tell you why. It didn't play out well this week compared to all the rest of the ones on there. It was the lowest, and it actually had two separate breakouts, both of which failed, which is normally not something you want to see. But here's what I keep thinking about Docu. And again, I don't want to be stubborn. I know the time will come. I just don't know when it will be, but I'll be ready when it does. Does that make sense to you guys? At some point, the algos are going to sweep down here. This is something that I've been trading for years. We do a lot in the room. Is when the day starts out, you get all these algos buying these big board stocks and running these things. And eventually it gets midday and they don't want to have anything to do with those anymore. They're just overpriced. And you get down in the bottom and you have things like Facebook or Netflix or Nvidia that's just been laying down there red. And then all of a sudden, they just pick it up and start running it. This is what we saw, for example, here. There's a good example of this. Let me open this the top chart here. It was a good trade for us here, just kind of throwing this Netflix down, chopping it around, stopping people out, confusing people, breaking and faking. And then right in the last minute of the day, just the algo picks it up and you get this big old algo sweep there. I love that trade. And I think you're going to see something like that in Docu here on the daily chart. Didn't happen last week. Maybe this is the week. So we're kind of looking for value now because I think, maybe you buy a Lulu, maybe you buy a TTD, a team, or FSLY and you bank, but man, buying them up here at these levels after those big runs is really difficult to start initiating positions up there. Docu, I still want to watch it. The other one is Facebook. Facebook was kind of left, if you go back here at some of these popular names, Facebook, look, it's just been kind of left over here all of last week. Didn't really participate in the rally. A pretty good looking chart. All it needs is just a little bump right above this, 267. It just needs a little bump up there and you can start. This is exactly how PACY started. I do not expect Facebook to operate like PACY and get that vertical. But this is not a bad chart right here. So put this Facebook. I got Docu and I got Facebook. You can also make the case for both Tesla and Apple. I don't want to just go through these deeply, but they didn't really participate that much. A little bit of cluster here in Tesla, and also Apple looks a little bit ready here. Again, stocks are just kind of didn't dump last week. Kind of looks just like Facebook. It didn't dump. It just, really quiet. Just kind of laying under the radar. Some of the money might have cycled out of some of that for this week, moved into these other growth stocks. Maybe we see that shift back in here and you start to see breakouts here because the premium will be on value. And those are ones I see that can move a little bit. Another one is this DraftKings. I'm not even typing. I'm just sitting here hitting keys. Nothing's happening. It's kind of like my brain. Nothing happens. DJNG. Okay, there we go. Again, one here that I like these charts that break out, these power charts, these Momo charts, and then they kind of sell off and they pull back into some support. You got some support laying down here in these 46s, 47s. I think if it gets down in there, I'd be interested in picking this up. Now, those are trades that are structured trades I'm talking about that I see maybe could even be used as swings too for some of you guys out there. As far as day trading and looking for value, you never know who's going to get that cycle. I still think things like Peloton, Roku, ZM, I still think those type of stocks are still day tradable stocks. I mean, if you put away the daily and if you get a dip on those and they hit support, they're most likely buys because they just don't give it all back in one day. It's not a penny stock that runs up like that and then you get this big red candle. It's sort of a process there, so watch those. So kind of going in review, let me just kind of go over this again. First of all, watch my damn videos. Man, I dished out some hits, I'm like a 1970s Elton John, just throwing them out left and right. So, I mean, watch them. Watch them. I put these stocks together. I hope you guys are making money. That's what the point is, Just wanted to throw some shade, okay? Trade plan. I really need to see how Monday's going to act and how much of this rally, if any of it, gets back tested. There is a good chance that I was incorrect. I thought we wouldn't see all-time high so after election. We actually might. We very well might. And I would be wrong, but I didn't put any money on this right now. So I'd be willing to change my bias quickly. I'm interested to see how that works. I think for swing plays or stocks you can get behind for the entire part of the week that has some room to run regardless of what the market does is Docu, is Facebook, Apple, and Tesla. I think those big names, even DraftKings, I think those names, especially the first couple, the FANG names there, were put on hold a little bit this week. Just kind of traded sideways, kept themselves really quiet. They could have some breakout weeks, especially if the NASDAQ keeps running and investors and traders are looking for some value. That's definitely something that you might find yourself, position that you might find yourself in. So watch those. Day trading, just keep it on the alpha side with things like ZM, with the things like FSLY, COOP, these big movers, they're, ZM, they're going to give you the opportunity to make trades day in and day out on both sides. So guys, I hope you like this video. As always, leave your comments, tips, quarrels, curmudgeoning, suggestions in the comments box below. And trade well. I will talk to you soon.